In this demo, we'll go through some tips for searching CINAHL by keyword, as well as using folders and EBSCO's citation generator. As always, one of the most important things to do as you start your search is to determine what terminology the database is actually using for your topic. In this example, if I search for bird flu, I get almost 300 articles. And EBSCO makes it easy for us to check our terms. For each article, it shows us the subject headings that were assigned to the article. And we can see here that they're using the term influenza avian rather than bird flu. And over here on the left, and you may have to open this up, they show us the subject headings that came up most often in our 300 results. So here too, we can see that the term used in this database is influenza avian. So the first thing I'll do is include their term in my search by telling it to retrieve articles that talk about either bird flu or influenza avian. It won't hurt to keep my original idea of bird flu. I just need to make sure I'm also including their term. And that gives me about 1,000 more articles than I had before. So you can see that watching for the subject terms and using them can make a big difference. Oh, and by the way, EBSCO ignores the comma here. You'll get the same results if you leave it out. Okay, now that I'm pretty sure I've found all the articles that are about bird flu, I can start narrowing my search. If you're just beginning to explore your topic, look through the titles for ideas of specific aspects you might want to research. This one focuses on monitoring wild birds. This one looks at the possibility of prevention with vaccination and face masks. Here's one that looks at reducing transmission with better market practices. This one focuses on the potential for a pandemic. And this one looks at controversy over researching the virus at all. And if we look at the subject headings, we can see why that's controversial. This article is about the potential for bioterrorism using the bird flu virus. And don't forget to check the subject terms over here for more ideas. You can open this Show More link to see even more subjects in the order of how often they came up in your results. You can change that to show them in alphabetical order if you prefer. Now, I'm actually interested in the possibility of a pandemic, so both disease outbreaks and disaster planning could be useful terms for my search, and perhaps World Health as well. Now, when you see a good term here, you can go ahead and click on it. For example, I'll choose the 94 articles that are about disaster planning. Now notice what that does. Of all the articles about avian influenza, I've told it to show me only the ones that have a subject heading of disaster planning. That works fine if I only want that one additional term, but I actually want to include a few more terms in my search, so I'm going to do it differently. So I'll remove that limit here and get back to my 1,300 articles about bird flu. On my second line here, I'm going to keep my original idea of pandemic in my search. It doesn't seem to be a subject heading, but it did show up in a lot of titles, and I don't want to lose those. But as we saw, the database is using the term disease outbreaks. So I'll use an OR here to include that term on the same line. And I also want those articles about disaster planning, so I'll OR that one in here as well. And that gives me close to 700 relevant articles. Depending on your search, you may want to add in another idea on the third line. For example, I may want to focus on the United States. And in that case, I may want to include the alternative term America. Now the asterisk here is a truncation character, and it stands for any additional letters. So this would retrieve America or American. Of course, this might also retrieve articles about Latin America, South America, or American travelers. If you get a few false hits like that, you can just ignore them. But if you find it produces a lot of false hits, you might decide to remove that term from your search. You'll just have to experiment. And by the way, if you want to add a row, you can just do that here. And if you decide to remove it, you can just toggle it back off there. Remember to keep watching those subject headings. Here's public health. That could be useful. So I could go back and add that in with the pandemic idea. Once we're pretty confident that we've found all the relevant articles in the database, we can use various limits to pin down the best articles in our result list. Limits are discussed in more detail in the video on searching CINAHL headings. Okay, here's one more example to recap the tips for searching by keyword. Break your research into 2 or 3 main ideas, such as skin cancer and treatment. Search, and check the subject headings. They're using skin neoplasms, so I will add that into my search. And I don't see it as a subject heading, but I guess that another term that might be used for treatment is therapy, so I'll include that. And in fact, I don't want to miss articles that use the term therapeutic, so I'll actually use a truncation here to get therapy, therapies, therapeutic, and so forth. Now I'm pretty sure I have all the relevant articles, so I'll start using limits. I'll set the date to the last 5 years or so, and this time I want to look at a specific population. I'll choose men in middle age. I still have lots of articles to choose from, and I only need a few, so I'll go ahead and ask for just the ones that are readily available in full text. We're almost done. I just have a few more tips for you about working with your results in CINAHL or any other EBSCO databases. One is notice the Page Options menu. This lets you control the view. By default, it's on the Detailed setting, showing you the abstract as well as the title and source information. Abstracts help you decide whether the article is really useful for your project. But if you prefer, you can switch this to Brief View. That might help while you're just scanning your results, and you can choose to see more items on a page if you like. As you scan your results, you can put promising items in a folder. Notice that my folder up on the top now shows items in the folder. I'll put a few more things in my folder. You can then open your folder and print, email, or save your item. Now be aware that when you close the database for the session, your folder will disappear into the ether. If you want to keep working with your folder from one session to another, you can use the Sign In feature. Just create yourself a login and password, and then remember to sign in the next time you access CINAHL, and your folder should still be there. Now finally, a couple of things to notice when you click into an article and are viewing the detailed record. Notice that your full text is over here. If you want to send someone a link to the article you found, use this permalink icon rather than the URL at the top of your browser. This URL is generated on the fly by the database and may not take your user to the right article. The permalink will open up a link on top of the information about your article, and that's the link that you want to share. And of course, remember the Cite icon. This opens a window in which EBSCO will try to give you a citation for the article in a variety of formats. Remember that these are machine generated and may not be quite correct, so be sure to check. And those are my main tips for searching CINAHL by keyword. Good hunting, and if you are having any trouble getting good results from this database for your project, be sure to ask your friendly librarian.